sleuth.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Sleuth Intuition YouTube Live. Today we're going to be talking about the Delphi double homicide, per usual, and anything else that might come up along the way. So I hope everybody's having a great morning. I know I am. Got the cup of Joe. Having a great morning. Couple things that I would like to focus on this morning would be parts of the 2017 interview with Keegan Kline and how that intermingles or intertwines with the 2020 transcripts. I want to talk about what it says in regards to when Keegan Kline first met Libby. He really didn't have any interactions with Abby at all, from what I understand. She just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, they both were. But in regards to originally coming in contact with Keegan or Anthony Schatz or whoever else might be using that profile. But I want to talk about what it says about when they originally met, the timeline from when Keegan says he first knew about Libby, that time frame between the murder, and then from the murder to the ski mask incident. And after looking into it further and going over the transcript with the fine-tooth comb, the friend that Libby was with when she met Keegan or Anthony Schatz is in fact the same friend that was involved in the ski mask incident, okay, which was about a little over a week after the crime took place. So that's kind of what we'll get into, and we'll see where that leads. A couple conspiracies I want to talk about. But first, we'll kind of see what's going on, who was able to make it. Let's see here. We got Outback. What's up, Outback? Martina Alexander. Good morning from the UK. I guess good evening for you. Or what would that be? Good afternoon? Good evening? Sub JD. Diane, how are you? Mystery Christie, how are you doing? Sela Stingy. Vanessa Ward. What's up, Glenn? How are you? Susan Oswald. We got Bogies. Bogies inbound. Big up to Southern Ohio. Good morning to Young. Walla Walla, Washington. Big up. Ronnie from Missing Persons. Thank you, Ronnie. Ultimate Ninja. What is up? Digital. Willow Rain. One of the few and the proud members. Okay. Carol, is that what's it? I don't know what that means. What's up, brethren? Captain's in the house. Stephanie Robertson. Thanks for coming in, guys. We don't really have anything planned I just grabbed a few notes. Anything that I'm kind of looking into, I just want to share with you guys. So that's what I'm looking into. There seems to be some confusion on when Anthony Shots and Libby first began communicating. In 2017, the transcripts are actually the 2020 transcripts. They refer to the 2017 transcripts, where Keegan actually mentions, well, I met them early February. He says, I think around the first or the second, but he says early February. Okay, so early February would coincide with the time she was spending with her friend. Now, this friend, according to the transcripts, Keegan actually knows their family. He knows their family. He went to school with Libby's friends, family members. Okay, he knows them personally, according to his testimony or his the transcript. Okay, so what he ended up doing was he began catfishing the person, a family member of a family that he knew. He said that she did show some type of interest in him, and that's why he did it. So he was trying to do it covertly. Oh, what's up, Mary Ellen? Jules, you made it. Mandy, hey. Bee's Knees. Big Joe. What's up, guys? So basically, Libby's spending time with her friend, and somehow she's introduced to the Anthony Shots person. Keegan, in his interview, states, that's when I first met her. I was communicating with this other person, and she's friends with Libby. And I think there's just talk about a sleepover. And he goes as far as to say, yeah, I was communicating with her, but I blocked her. But law enforcement comes to find out, or comes to state later on in the transcript, that that's not true, that there was literally grooming taking place. Grooming, whatever the extent of the grooming, we don't know. That, to law enforcement, that could just mean, a period of time where you're trying to convince somebody and you're trying to break them down, and eventually you get them to do what you want them to do. You're grooming them for a specific reason. What's up, Ricky? Kathy? Sky Blue? Thanks for coming in, guys. I don't really have anything. Really planned. I just want to talk about that. I want to focus on that. So what happened was, law enforcement's trying to ask Keegan, like, hey, how long were you communicating? What's the extent of the relationship? And they mentioned that Libby was actually convinced that she was speaking with Anthony Shots. Okay. So it kind of reminded me of what Julian Powell said when law enforcement interviewed him. Either was that February, late February, or early June. He said one of the questions they asked him was, did the girls make fun of you? Were you taking pictures and the girls made fun of you and you snapped? So I'm wondering if that indicates that some of the audio was somebody basically snapping, or the girls making fun of this person, and then this guy freaking out, maybe pulling out a gun or something. So it made me think that there could be multiple people using the Anthony Shots profile, and they could have bullied Keegan. He could be doing this all alone. He could be being bullied by other people wanting to gain access to these young girls through his profile, maybe high on drugs, who knows. And then once they get there, they set up the meeting, and the girls are like, who are you? Like, you've been following us. So the creepy guy finally eventually reaches the girls and says, hey, it's me. Like, I'm the Anthony Shots guy. And they're like, no, you're not. Anthony Shots guy is good looking. He's a younger person. You are some old middle-aged, drug addict, is from what it appears to be. and maybe the person just wasn't having it. Maybe they were going there with high hopes. Some nut job going there with some type of fantasy that he's just going to come out and say, hey, look, I know I catfished you, but this is really me, surprise. And they just weren't having it, maybe. So that's the conspiracy part that I wanted to talk about. But first, let's see. So the transcripts from 2020 mention that Libby did trust the Anthony Shots as a real person. So Keegan victimized her in a very evil way, because he was able to appeal to um, her needs at the time. So that just makes it that much more evil, in my opinion. I just believe people with certain family situations are more susceptible for this type of behavior. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's take a look here what you guys are talking about. So Susan says they could have been sassy towards him as normal teens do and pissed him off. Yeah, this could have been some nut job. Because if we're not dealing with Keegan Klein as the killer here, you know, we're basing that off the whole DNA discussion. Maybe somebody bullied Keegan. You know, he seems like somebody that you could easily bully. Like, give me your phone. All right. Don't do anything like, I know I'm a sick pedophile, but don't go tracking these girls down or whatever. You could just have somebody utilizing Keegan um, to perpetuate even further evils. R. Fraser says, "Hey Sleuth, do you think one of the Kleins is Bridge Guy?" Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think so. There's talk in the transcript of Keegan being at a certain location, or his phone was. Um, they said during the crime he was somewhere on Country Club Road, and he was one of his devices was active there on Country Club Road, and it was looking at pornography. Okay, so now what was he doing on that road during the crime? Who knows? Maybe he was there picking up somebody who was involved in the crime, waiting for them to finish completing the crime. So once they finish committing the murders, they zip back, they clean up, get back in the vehicle with Keegan Klein, and everybody goes their separate way. You know, I have a feeling that Keegan was just bullied. You know, give me that phone. I'm going to see what's up with these little girls. Just somebody. It's hard to imagine somebody more evil than Keegan, but believe it or not, there's people out there. This was most likely not their first time. Um, they don't get caught. They're very smart, but then they get high and they do. They get rambunctious, kind of like Thomas Bruce. He would get all liquored up, and then he would go out and do horrible crimes. But he was by no means a stupid man. What's up, Kathy? Oh, safe travels. Good to see you. Sure. Let me post it up for you, Lulu. Yep. If anybody wants to call and ask a question, make a comment, um, feel free to. It'll probably be a short little calls here and there. We won't spend too much time, but we'll get to your point and we'll address it, and then we'll take another call. calling. Hi, Jill. Phony Pin, how are you doing? Hey, Vanessa. Oh, yes. That also brings me to another point. Kelsey mentions that the friend she was fighting with her friend, and this is most likely the same friend that she was with the weekend prior to, um, because I believe she was no longer going to be on the softball team. Abby stepped up and said, "Hey, you know what? I'll be the friend that you need right now while you're going through all of this." And then it brings me to another point is that, and we can't take anything that the interview with Bart and all these people, these are third parties. They may even be involved themselves. We don't know. So you always take all that stuff with a grain of salt. But he did mention, oh no, actually it wasn't Bart. I think it was the Kayla interview where basically Keegan tried to meet up with her in person, and when she brought a friend, he made some comments about he got really upset, said I should have cut your throat, and things like that. So maybe Keegan is like the guy they send out there, you know, make sure everything's cool. Like, all right, go out there and see what's going on, and then we'll come in and we'll finish. We'll do the deed. So she never said that Keegan personally, out of his mouth, said, I'm going to do these things. So she could be communicating with multiple people. So Keegan could have been the guy who went out there to meet them, but the person who messaged her later could have been, who we now refer to as our bridge guy. Potentially Tony Klein, neighbor one, neighbor two, and then friend two. Those are the guys that are potentially involved, in my opinion. And that's actually not my opinion. That's what I see in the transcripts. That's what's being conveyed to me. Oh, did I see Fig? What's up, Fig? Some business stuff right now. Definitely listening. Okay, you got it, man. Thanks for joining. Safe travels. Let's see. Willow Rain 70. I'm still not convinced BG is the Kleins. Yeah, I don't think BG right now. I don't think he is the Kleins, but they are involved. Um, like I said, if the DNA means anything, they have Keegan's DNA. If they have Keegan's DNA, they have Tony's DNA. Does that mean that they weren't there? Does that mean that they weren't a getaway driver? Did they participate? Are they guilty after the fact? So that's the stream that I'm working on. I'll most likely go live later today for my insomnia crew. But I'm working on something more in depth in regards to the relationship between the neighbors. There's a strange relationship there. They're coming and going. They're doing all kinds of hard drugs. A lot of young people. A lot of child solicitation going on between the whole group of the people. Yeah, there's a lot of strange things going on, which opens up the possibility to somebody else potentially being the bridge guy. So some people think there's no more room for a little bit of sleuthing around, but unfortunately, I still think that it's necessary. What's up, Jill? What's up, Jack? Let's see. Lakeside just says, you are so right about how manipulative these predators are. They know how to choose their victims. Well, in the interview, in the transcript, 2020 transcript, law enforcement asks Keegan, like, how do you target your victims? And he even mentioned something that Libby put on one of her profiles, and he says, no, it had nothing to do with that. I guess it was a comment about Peter Pan or something. He says, nope, I don't pay attention to any of that. And the officer said, oh, what? It's like a shotgun, like a like a buckshot effect. He's like, Keegan's like, yeah, like basically I message over 50 girls at a time using 2 phones. So that he could just be doing a broad blanket, attack on these girls. It just happened to be that she's susceptible, for whatever she's going through at the time. It's puberty. Um, I know she's living with her grandparents. There's a lot of stuff weighs on you at that age. People forget about that. Yeah. They may just go as far as creating the profiles or getting in contact with these girls. You know, I could see Keegan spending his entire day catfishing and manipulating these young girls. And then late at night, or at some point, dad comes home and his strange friends, the neighbors start showing up, the drugs start coming out. And, I can see him just poking at Keegan. Like, hey, man, let me see your phone. Like, who you talk to? What girls you got this time, And he's like, oh, nothing. And then they basically force him. Like, you're going to give me that phone or I'm going to whoop your ass type of deal. Like, stuff like that happens in places like this. People get hurt. You can get your ass beat at the drop of a dime by your own family, in those types of situations. Yeah, I think they went there. The killers went there with high hopes, some type of fantasy in their mind. I have a feeling drugs play a much bigger role. You know, and they get down there, and things just don't go the way that they had them planned. I don't know. Did you guys see that link? I did post that link for Lulu. If you want to use it, it's there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. I'll post it again just in case. Stephanie, you can email it to me, sleuthintuition@gmail.com. No guarantees I'll get to it. I'll try to. Oh, I got a little fly in here. Digital asks, can you confirm whether JP lived on Country Club Road at that time? No, he did not. There are some pals that live out there, but I can't find any relation between the two. Yeah, and I actually talked to Julian yesterday. We talked for a while. I asked him if he wanted to come on to my live stream because everybody's talking about him again, and he says that he's on some kind of medication right now that yeah, once he acclimates to it, he might be better off.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. I'm driving out of town, so I might be in some iffy spots. So I have a theory. I feel like since Libby was fighting with one of her friends, and they were obviously fighting over the Anthony shots.
Yeah.
And then I heard that Abby and Libby were were really excited about telling the cops something. Did you guys hear that?
What I know of that situation is that they simply posted a photo. I think it was on Instagram, and they both had their fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I think people just started kind of building the story around that, but it very well could have meant that they had a secret.
Yeah, why? I mean, what else could they have been you know. And then they were at, like, she asked her sister, like, begged her to take her to the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
She either thought it was really going to be like Anthony shots, or she was probably they probably had their fingers crossed, hoping it was him,
Well,
or
in the
if
in the
not,
2020 transcripts,
yeah,
one of the interviewers, one of the agents tells Keegan that Libby was in fact extremely infatuated with him. She
yeah.
really thought she was speaking to this young, handsome guy.
I think any 13, 14-year-old girl, really immature, that actually would think that boy was talking to them would be.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't blame her. She's a
No,
victim. In her mind,
yes,
she says, "I deserve a good-looking man. I deserve a successful young person. I deserve it." And here you are
yeah,
on the other side of that Wizard of Oz green screen is this piece of shit, and
yeah. And all these pictures they're showing of the girls, I think they look way younger. They're one's 14, one's almost 14, and I know when I was that age, and when my friends were that age, we were, we
mhm.
knew what we were doing, but they
Yeah,
were
me
still
too.
just little girls.
Well,
But I always
I
wondered,
knew what I was doing.
but you
I didn't
didn't.
mean to cut you off. I knew what I
You
was
thought you
doing, but
did.
I didn't. Exactly.
You wanted to think you knew.
Mhm.
I've always in the back of my mind thought, is that why she had her camera out, like just in case it wasn't him? She wanted to make up with her friend. Did she want to prove to her friend that they were both wrong since they were fighting over him? Like,
Or maybe she just wanted to document it. Maybe she was
yeah,
excited,
yeah,
like, "I wanna document this, but I don't know
yeah.
who this guy is walking across the bridge. That's not my guy."
Well, if Keegan is calling like 50 girls at a time, I think he's getting
Mhm.
paid. It's a big ring. I think that they're all in this, like all these sick pedophiles are in it together, and I
Well,
do think they're doing film.
there's evidence in the transcript that, I don't know if Keegan's getting paid, but he was definitely paying girls for photos.
I would say they did do some kind of sick film, and I don't even want, in my mind, I can't even go there. So that's really all I had to say, and I've been following this since day one. Every day
Yeah,
I wake
Lulu.
I'm
Yeah,
getting really excited though. We're getting close.
I think we are. I don't know how close we are, but we're definitely closer for sure.
Well, I like when Doug Carter said that it's going to be before he retires. And I want to wait 3 more years though. I think it'll be over before the end of the year. God, I hope so. I hope before summer.
Yeah, we just need that strong, powerful witness to point at the
Yeah,
guy in that courtroom.
yeah. We need this Keegan to hurry the hell up, and his stupid sick dad. Ugh.
Yep.
But
And
anyways,
hopefully they know. Hopefully they know
yeah,
if maybe they don't know.
no, they know a lot. It's obvious.
Hmm.
And that dad and that poor sister and that Bart. Ugh. But yeah. So, anyways, I love your show, and I'll be here.
All
So,
right. Thanks
hey,
for
don't
calling
flip
in,
all
Lulu.
over. All right, bye, y'all.
All right. Take care. Have safe travel.
You too.
Bye. Well, that was awesome. That was a great call. Like I said, if anybody wants to call in and just make a comment or has a question about anything random, really, let me see what I missed here in the chat. Stephanie, if you want to call in, go ahead and click on that link. That link will bring you to what's called a backstage of StreamYard. You can type in any number. You can choose to be on camera. You can choose to be off camera. Or not any number, I'm sorry. You can type in any name that you would like there. I have no access to your information. You just literally pop up as a box here that I can add to my current StreamYard. So if anybody wants to chime in, okay. Okay, Chopper Harris, what's up? He says, "Hello, people. How can I find out who the neighbors are without name dropping on here?" Well, what I would do is search um, Keegan Klein, Tony Klein. Once you have that address, just search the address that's right next to it. And once you search it, it'll give you a list of everybody that lived there. Yeah, I mean, that's what he says. Who knows what the extent of that is? And I guess he doesn't have to be driving to be sitting in a car. You know, they could have dropped him off there, all left in a separate car, and said, "You know what, we'll be back in less than an hour. You just sit here, stay on the phones, use the phones." I do believe he is involved. I don't know if Tony's involved. He's definitely involved in the solicitation and the child porn and stuff like that, but I don't know how involved he is in this crime. What's up, beautiful one? BN Mama, hello, welcome. Fig says, "I looked pretty hard yesterday for the PAL and CCR connection. Couldn't find one. Different PALs as far as I can tell." Yep. And it was an easy find, honestly. Um, but it was easy for me because Julian told me who his grandparents were. He visits them in the Denver cemetery all the time. Um, so, I mean, just start there, honestly. Looks like we have somebody joining us. Go ahead and add them here to the stream now. So, I mean, just start there, honestly. Stephanie, can you turn your volume down a little bit? Or if you have headphones or anything? So, I mean, just start there, honestly.
Is that better?
Yeah, you sound much better.
I have my phone on because I don't know how to pull a picture up in a picture.
Okay, what you can do here is I think you can share your screen. Are you on?
I have my phone on because I don't know how to pull a picture up in a picture.
Okay, yeah, you might need to turn your volume down just a little bit more. Are you on? Because we can hear that in the background, kind of like an echo. You might need to turn your volume down just a little bit more.
On the phone or the computer?
Whichever one, both. If you can hear both of them, then we can hear both of them.
Is that better? On the phone or the computer?
Whichever one, both.
Better?
It's a little better. I think we can deal with that, yeah. So you are trying to pull up a photo?
No, it's an article that I read when I was doing some researching. And it's called The Reluctant Accomplice and Temporary Psychopath.
Reluctant accomplice.
And it states that there are some criminal teams include accomplices who unwillingly comply, and they adapt to ego-dystonic behavior. They use distancing strategies that suppress pro-social emotions. When the period of criminality ends, they might regain their former selves. I was just really think this sounded exactly like Keegan Klein.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe they're involved, and I believe that he is very using all of these. Not that I'm saying he's innocent, but I think he was catfished as well and used as a patsy. And I think he's showing a lot of these behaviors. It is by a woman named Catherine Ramsland, PhD, and it's in Psychology Today, if you want to read it.
How do you spell the last name?
But there was one part that I wanted to read. It is Ramsland, PhD, Catherine.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll take a look.
And it says cognitive neuroscience offers some ideas. One study features the notion of a shared mentality or synchrony. Others identify the effects of duress that can suppress empathy. I'm keenly interested in those teams where individuals who weren't inclined to be killers nevertheless participated in a murder. I think this is very interesting. If you'd like to read that and maybe present it better, because I'm not tech savvy at all. This is my first time ever doing this.
Oh, really?
I'm an LPN of 19 years. I've only done long term care, but I've dealt with a lot of psych people in my time because
Hmm.
now there are so many young people that are addicted or have
Hmm.
issues from addiction that are in the nursing homes. Um, and of course, I lost my son to addiction. So,
Sorry to hear that.
um, if you would like to present this better, I just think it would be interesting for everyone to see and
Sure.
to read. Not that I feel sorry for Keegan, I don't, but I think there's so much more to him, and he's a victim too, I
Well,
believe.
it's a set of circumstances that leads up to a crime like this. It's not just one guy waking up from a normal life and just going and killing and then returning to his normal life like nothing happened. It's a sequence of events, drugs, mental health, what you know, all of the above.
Hey, I'm going to jump off now, okay?
All right, I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome.
Take care. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at this book, Reluctant Accomplice, Catherine Ramsland. Sounds very interesting. Okay. If anybody else wants to reach out, feel free. Let's see. Digital says, have you ever listened to where Bernstein introduced the audio in the February 22nd, 2017 presser? Yes, many times. What about it? Marvelous. What's up? Welcome. Thanks, Donald. No pressure, buddy. Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great day at work today. Nobody says, is it SN with a TE added? I don't know what that means. Is that JP's parents' ex as well? Yeah, I was talking with JP yesterday, and I was just asking if he wanted to join me, and he wants to get used to this new medication he's on. So once he does that, he says he will, maybe in a day or two. I asked him about his relationship to the pals. No relationship. I asked him if he knew friend one or two. Says no, because I know one of his family members is Facebook friends with them. So I was like, hey, do you know these people? He said no, and we had a long discussion about it. So if you want answers, I guess you go to the source, right? That's just my opinion. Yeah, and what our guest was mentioning is, as far as Keegan being a victim, that's what I'm thinking, is that he's easily bullied. So if he's somebody that spends his entire day catfishing and soliciting young girls, um, maybe somebody bigger, stronger, meaner, can use Kagan like like a tool. Like, hey, I'm going to take what you have to further what I'm doing. Maybe somebody who's not so internet savvy, have Keegan set something up for him, and then they just take it too far. Slap Keegan around a little bit. Like, give me your phone, dude. Boston Christian says, I've heard many say Keegan has brain damage from uncontrolled seizures and being hit in the head by Tony Klein. He has no good memory. He has no control when people make him do something. I mean, that sounds like a whole lot of hearsay. Ooh, talking about turmeric and organic honey. Yeah, I mean, that stuff you should just take on the regular. That stuff's yummy. Drop it in some tea. Like you do with every bad choice. I don't know what that means. I don't know who you're talking to. I think the better first question should be, does he have damage to the frontal lobe? And then we go from there. Yeah, Stephanie, I really appreciate you jumping on there. I'm going to look into it. I don't know anything about it, so I don't want to present something without at least taking a quick look. Checking out the bio on the author and things like that. Yeah, I agree with Christine Falk. She says a lot of people have seizures and grew up in abusive households that do not do this to children. There's no excuse for him. I don't care what anyone says. He wasn't insane and knows the difference. He does know the difference. And he's by no means innocent at all. No sympathy for Keegan. But that doesn't change the fact that he could have been bullied into providing information that led to the murders. There's people out there that have already convicted Keegan and Tony in their mind of the Delphi murders. But you got to realize, if they were guilty of the Delphi murders, they would be in prison right now. There's somebody else involved. They could be guilty, but they weren't the perpetrator of the act, in my opinion. Were they there? Possibly. Were they driving a vehicle? Possibly. Were they fully aware after the fact? Possibly. We don't know. Christine's like, she's not having any of that. Why does it feel like people are sympathizing with this disgusting person? I'm not sure. That's something only you can, that's your perception, You got to play out the events in your head, We know that other people were using Keegan's phone. We know he wasn't the only person who was talking to children. So that makes them all equally guilty. But out of all of those people, who murdered the girls, if any of them at all? Right now, the evidence would suggest somebody connected to those phones and who was communicating on those profiles, it are the people responsible for the deaths of Abby and Libby. That's what the evidence says right now. How did that happen? Keegan doesn't seem like the type of guy who could make it across that bridge. He seems helpless. Even when he went to Vegas, they're like, why'd you come back? Because the dude probably got kicked out of his apartment for just sitting there, being a slob, doing nothing, So when we say he's a victim, he's not a victim as like we refer to Abby and Libby, like they're victims. We're saying that he could have been abused and the information could have been beaten out of him, so to speak. I mean, I hate to call him a victim. You're right. I mean, it doesn't roll off the tongue easy, and maybe we shouldn't. I don't have a problem not saying that. I don't mind just saying he possibly got his ass beat. I'm fine with that. So good point. Fuck Keegan. He's not a victim. He's just a pussy. Okay. Oh, absolutely agree. Sleuth and tuition. I was saying that in response to a comment about brain damage. Yeah, I just don't know why we're talking about brain damage. I don't see where that came up. I don't know where that's stemming from. Yeah, he was talking normal. He looks like he has a whole list of issues, though. I mean, I definitely believe he has seizures and he doesn't look well. Yeah, he said something about drinking. But why would you worry about drinking and then go do PCP? You know what I mean? Like, that's a little strange to me. Oh, I have seizures when I drink a beer. But let me go ahead and smoke this angel dust real quick. Take some mushrooms and some acid. I'm good there. But yeah, hold the Bud Light. Sloopy. Hang on, Sloopy. Sloopy, hang on. Sorry, can't help myself. Will Graham's in the house. Let me see. Keegan worked on a pig farm at one point, right? Yeah, his stepfather had a pig farm. He says it in the interview, 2020 interview. Yep, I have his stepdad's name right here. I looked into him a little bit. Seems like a normal guy. That was probably Keegan, his only experience with like a normal childhood, a real father. Somebody that wanted to teach him about being a man, working on a pig farm and responsibility, waking up in the morning, busting your ass for that money. And then he goes back to Tony Klein where he's treated like a buddy in a halfway house, doing drugs and soliciting children. What a fucked up situation. Who is BG? That is a good question. I'm not sure, man. I definitely have a focused little area at this point, but I don't know. Brian, what's up, Brian? Sleuth, I agree with you 100% that it wasn't the Kleins on the bridge, but they could have been at the murder scene. Yeah, they could have been there. They could have been holding one of the girls. Maybe there was some type of transfer, dog hair, and then the murder was impossible sexual assault. I don't know. And then also the murder, when we look at David Erskine and his supposed leaked text messages, he talks about that it was personal with Libby. Okay, so if it's personal with Libby, and Libby's the one that was personally talking with Anthony Schatz, to me, that points directly at that profile. But it doesn't point directly at Keegan or Tony, friend 1 or friend 2, or even friend 3. It doesn't point at anybody specifically. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Law enforcement still has their hands full, as far as from what I can see. See, Brett Eversole. I'm going to stick to my original theory that this was a revenge killing. Liberty's dad snitched on drug dealers, and they went after his daughter, and Abby was a bonus. I mean, what evidence leads you to go in that direction? First, you would have to prove the Liberty's dad, Derek, snitched on anybody. So you would have to start there. That seems like um, a tough enough task in itself to prove that. So if you can't prove that, why build on that? You know what I mean? Unless it's just another conspiracy. But why come up with conspiracies that don't have to do with the evidence and the transcripts that were released? That's my only. I don't want you to waste time. And that's all. But yeah, you could be 100% right. This could have absolutely nothing to do. The evidence doesn't, that's not what the evidence shows us. Shows us that law enforcement is going in the right direction. But they could be wrong, yes. There are coincidences. Yes, brain damage from seizures is a real thing. Brain damage from a lifetime of physical abuse is real. I hate what he did. Yes, it's real, but not everybody that has seizures has brain damage, and not everybody that has a lifetime of physical abuse, has suffers from those things. But yes, it may be likely, or the higher potential. Most definitely. Because when you hear stories of abuse, you don't hear really, even though Keegan says it, I think in his 2017 transcript that he was abused, but why be friends with your father and things like that if he was abusive towards you? Christine says, I had a messed up childhood, got help, I don't hurt people. Yeah. But we all know, looking into a lot of the stories, especially these true crime watchers, who read and look into serial killers, a lot of them suffered from childhood abuse, like really, bad. Like they weren't just hit and beat, like they were really traumatized. So not everybody makes it out of there unscathed. It doesn't mean that people that suffered abuse are gone through, are potentially killers or anything like that. So I don't want anybody to create that stigma. He's not built for prison. Oh no, he's built for prison. He's built perfectly for prison. Those inmates are going to love him. I'm sure they think he's built perfectly for prison. PCP is speed, I believe. Speed, angel dust. Colette Henson, hello. It was somebody that they might know. Am I right? You never know who it could be. Yeah, there are. In law enforcement, if you listen to these stories that they talk about, sometimes they have their guy. They even have DNA evidence pointing to this certain person. He was there. There was a witness there. But it turns out it was just a strange coincidence. Indiana's a strange place. If anything, you got small town USA filled with all these pederasses and these, soliciting minors and all this crazy stuff. Like I just found a strange report and I looked at the guy. This happened in 2015, and he was the only reason I didn't share it was because he was acquitted. They basically said he was guilty, but they're waiting on more evidence, and they couldn't press charges because they didn't think that they could go to court with the evidence they had. So I looked this guy up on Facebook, and he's friends with friend one, friend two. He's friends with all of these people that are connected to the Klein household and both those houses. So I was just like, if this guy's out here doing all this stuff, let's say he just happened to show up at the Klein's house while they're all effed up, on drugs. and he knows that they're talking to children, picks up the phone, you know, copies the profile, loads it up on his phone, password and all, starts communicating with the girls. We just don't know. There's those missing pieces of time. I mean, I can wait another 3 years. If that's what it takes, I could wait. I don't want to wait. It's been long enough, but I could wait. And I say that for the families because they don't have a choice. Me, I can shut the computer off and walk away, turn my phone off, stay away from true crime on television. The family, they can't turn it off. They wake up and they go to sleep and it's there. So when I say I can wait, that's for them. Yeah, he's lazy. I mean, everybody talks about how he's lazy. I guarantee that's why he didn't get along with friend number one when they moved to Vegas together. Yep. Everybody thinks that their burden is the heaviest, but we're all in it together. You know? Good. Hopefully you find something interesting. Yeah. Marvelous says, none of us know who BG is, but we can try to flush him out. And even Doug Carter said it's the pressure. That's all we're doing. We're trying to create pressure. We're filling up a room. Bridge guy's he's in a room filled with all this great oxygen. We want to flush him out. We want to smoke him out. We're trying to fill that room up with smoke to where he can't breathe anymore. And he has to come running out of that door. Sherm, wet. It causes psychosis and ultimate strength whenever you hear about someone who takes on 9 police officers and won't go down. That's somebody on PCP. Yeah. So if this guy's out of his mind, who knows what they're capable of? August Barnes, hello. Sleuth, if KK rolls, isn't that like admitting his own involvement in it? Without being involved, how would he know anything? No matter what involvement he may have will equal life. That's not true. It depends on what deal he makes. If they don't give him a deal and he's looking at 55 years in prison anyway, why would he say anything? There's no motivation for him to say anything. Now, if law enforcement, and they even said it in the transcripts from 2017, they offered to take everything off the table if he could provide information that would lead to the killer in the Delphi case. They literally told him it would go away. So that's definitely not true. Now, if he is guilty, that may keep him from saying anything. So if he's the guy, on the bridge, committed the murders, and he did it all alone, there's no reason he would ever come forward. I just don't think that that's the case. Susan, I think KK was involved but didn't do the killings. He grew up watching his family members getting the F beat out of them, so he is scared of his own shadow, and he would do anything he's told. Yeah, I don't know. I think he is a pushover, especially if you're dealing with killers. You put Keegan in a room full of some killers, some dangerous men, he's going to get pushed around and bullied. He's going to do whatever they tell him. Especially if he doesn't have a job, nowhere to go. Especially if his father works the midnight, the graveyard shift, and he's gone at night, and Keegan's home alone there with his crazy neighbors. Yeah, I mean, anything could be going on there. All right, we just hit the hour mark, so we're going to start closing her down. It's going to be a quick morning show. I'm going to meet up with you guys again later tonight. We'll do a follow up on all this information. So if anybody wants to call in, kind of get ahead of the chat or anything like that, feel free to use that number. Otherwise, we're just going to hang out for another 10, 15 minutes. Yep, that is true. Hey, Maureen, welcome. Yeah, I didn't know that. You can airdrop an app from one phone to another with the blink of an eye. Yeah, that's crazy. Because we know in the 2020 transcripts, they asked Keegan, they said, hey, man, like, why are people logging in on multiple phones? Right here, the day of the murder, you logged in, you logged out, and then on another phone, you logged in and logged out. And he said, that's just what I do. In the mornings, I grab both my phones and I message over 50 people. I just send mass messages on both phones. Kind of like if they start responding, he's responding to two separate people on two separate phones. So this dude has basically become a professional child catfisher. I mean, what's the word for this guy? I mean, he does child solicitation for a living. Yeah. And it's just strange to see everybody, they don't want you talking about certain people, but then they talk about who they want to talk about. Oh, don't talk about this person, but let's go ahead and talk about this person. It's just this hypocritical behavior. We're not going to do that here. Oh, Kathy, I'm so sorry to hear that. Prayers for you, Kathy. I hope the same thing. That'd be a great gift for you. I hope everything turns out okay. I'm really sorry to hear that. Who is Stephanie Harlow? The name of her channel is Delphi Murders, Coffee and True Crime. I mean, I don't know anybody who can trademark coffee and true crime, but I can change it if it's confusing to some. I don't mind. I just typed it up. No biggie. Everybody always expects somebody to have like bad intentions. I don't have any bad intentions. I didn't want to seem too cruel, Maureen, but I was definitely thinking poison gas in my mind. But people get offended by the weirdest things. You never know. There's just so many different personalities, so many different types of people, different religious backgrounds, political beliefs. You just never know who's going to get triggered, who's going to get upset. Why did you do this? Why are you using that? That's why it's better if you just chill the F out, stop focusing on negative stuff, and just move on with your day. It's really not that hard. When you're a positive person, some negative people can just move right in and really bring you down if you're not careful. The worst is the month right after you lose somebody and you wake up and have to remind yourself that person is gone. Yeah. I've lost some really good friends growing up, you know, to murder, drugs, um, just being from a big city, that kind of stuff happens. When you're younger and you don't have a lot to lose, it was a little bit easier. Because I mean, when I was a young teenager and an early adult, I never expect, I was around bad people all the time. Probably up until the age of the 16, I was basically a criminal. So I just expected to be in jail or dead. But as you get older, you become an adult and you start investing, you start building, you start purchasing homes and you start careers and your family's, blossoming. You have so much more to lose. Life means so much more at that stage of your life. Sky Blue Moon says, "Don't forget, BG is free and trying to find other victims. Ding ding, it's a nightmare." Yeah, that's the one thing that keeps me motivated. I don't try to act like I know the family or I have some type of relationship with Abby and Libby. Honestly, my obsession is extremely selfish. I have my own 14-year-old that I have to protect. The thought of that and thought of this person out there, makes my skin crawl. Um, I don't get angry because anger is what caused this murder. This murder is is fruit from anger. So I try never to get angry because once you become angry, you're just like this killer. It was anger that made him kill. So although I don't get angry, I get frustrated for sure. Thanks, Marvin. Nobody says I stopped trusting law enforcement when they killed my brother. Only goddesses, God or goddesses knows. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, law enforcement. I have more respect for investigators than I do law enforcement in general. I mean, I have a great admiration, for first responders and things like that. They're definitely heroes. But like we talked about before, you're a product of your environment. Even the best cops, when they're in a room full of other cops, may do something that's unbecoming. So power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That would go for me. I mean, I don't know what type of cop I would be. I'm sure I'd be great. I definitely like being the first person to help or to jump into a dangerous situation. But I mean, corruption is like if you guys know anything about gardening, you never want to plant like mint near anything else because the roots, any small piece of root can flower up and become a whole nother giant plant. So it's like an infestation of your whole garden. And that's kind of what corruption does. It's like a slow little root. It just grows and grows. And even when you think you pull it and you think you've redeemed yourself, there's still that little piece that's trying to grow. What's up, Curly? Yeah, there was definitely people. There's two other people for a fact that were using his phone. Two grown people, and that's Tony and neighbor two, friend three. But he also states that neighbor one, and who is also friend one, could have been using his phone while he was passed out, high, out of his mind. So this is not an open and shut case, guys. Law enforcement want to know what the hell is going on. Who are these people who had access? That's what they need to know. Who are these people? Well, Diane, people get butt hurt over every little thing, get on my last nerve. Yeah, it's because they're just out there for negative reasons. Judgmental people are the worst. You know, they'll never take that same judgment and point it inward. They have all this perception, but it's never inward. You know, I definitely consider myself a Christian. That's no disrespect for anybody out there, even the Wiccans or people that do that kind of stuff. But I'm not a judgmental person. It's not for me to hold you to the fire. That's not my job. Now, can I make discernment and say, hey, I don't want you near my children? Yes. Discernment and judgment are two different things. Yeah. I mean, I had no business being around that group anyway. I had a strong family, had everything going for me, everything I needed. I was just I thought I was smarter than I was, and I was extremely street smart, but I was a little crazy too, trying to prove to everybody how big my cojones were. Lil Pookie, what's up? Yeah, that rage. I mean, what else would cause this? Stay away from anger. I don't care what anybody does to you. Anger, that's the devil in you. You know right then and there, if you're angry, God's nowhere near you. You are all alone. Brett says, I think I'm just going to sit back and wait to hear the news that the killer has been caught and focus on all the innocent people being murdered in Ukraine. Well, that's your personal choice, man. Shout out to my green thumbs. Yeah, I think he is taunting the police. I think he's taunting us too. There's so many trolls out there. Come to find out, a lot of these YouTubers that you love and respect, they have their own little troll accounts. So we got people in here now using their troll accounts. People that I've blocked, people that I don't get along with, they're in here trolling. Then you got real trolls that make fake accounts of people like me and other people that go out there and they just keep, mass producing it, things like that. We've all seen it. So it's easy for somebody like a bridge guy to kind of slide in to this large group of people trolling and all this fake crap and then just kind of hide there. Hide in plain sight again on the social web. Joe says, hey, Sleuth, I find it strange that if BG lives in Delphi that there have not been more crimes like this in the past 5 years. In my opinion, I do not think BG lives there anymore. Yeah, maybe he never lived there. Maybe it's somebody that moves around a lot. There is a name that's mentioned in the transcript of somebody who potentially lived next door to Tony. And this person moves all around all the time. Both of those neighbors do, They're not born and bred in Peru or in that area. They're constantly moving around. Do you know, Sleuth, if the girls knew anyone by the name of Justin around the time of the murders, buddy? I'm not sure. Yeah, and if you have anger, you're no better than Will Smith. Just remember that before you go judging anybody. If you're an angry person, you're Will Smith. You got to get that in check. It's like people will get angry. If you don't do what they want you to do, they get angry. Even some of my watchers or people that stop in, they want to control me. They'll send me emails and they're like, you need to do this, or you need to be truthful, or, trying to tell me what to do on my channel. It's like, what are you doing? Go get your own channel. I'm not a professional. I'm just a guy who has this microphone right here. That's it. I don't need to do anything that you tell me to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if I get something wrong, I'll be the first one to admit it. What's up, Mike? Welcome. It's always good to see you. Anyone think there is a connection to Evansdale? That's a hard one. I mean, before, yeah, it would seem like there is very possible, but now we don't know. It's just so close. It's really not that far of a drive. Yep, these laborers, truckers, laborers, I mean, they can literally move to any city. If there's a big job somewhere, they'll get up and they'll move for that money. Growing up, I used to have friends try to drag me to cross, to the other side of the country. Oh, there's a big job, man. They need people. They're paying you this. And it is very tempting. But I can see you out there. If you're a bad guy, you're bouncing from city to city, I could see you thinking you could get away with some type of crime. Especially with all the talk of these guys planning to move to Vegas. Oh, that reminds me. So Keegan moved to Vegas in 2017, but he went to vacation there sometime February. He returned from his vacation February 25th of 2017. That's when they served that first search warrant and interviewed him and his dad. So I don't know when they went. Somebody can type that in the chat. So I'm thinking after they were raided on the 25th, the search warrant was served and the interviews, and they didn't arrest him. Him and friend one, who was also neighbor one, like, man, we got to move out of here. We got to get out of here. Like, we didn't get arrested. We didn't get caught. We got to get out of here. Because if you notice, the second he came back, they arrested him. What's up, Daz? Yeah, don't let other people get you down. But this also goes to the personal responsibility. If you're that person and you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I need to message Sleuth Intuition. He's not giving the right information. I'm going to correct him. Because usually these people that are like that are wrong anyway. In the scheme of it all, and when it's all said and done, they're wrong. They just think they have like some type of monopoly on information. They got to know it all. They got to know all the information. And then as soon as they know the information, they're the first ones to go out and spread it to the wrong people. Let's see, Evansdale connection. The only connection is that the killers could have been told how to stage the scene to look like the same MO. Well, the MO and the staging would be two separate things. MO is how he would actually commit the crime, what weapons were used, what was used to hold the bodies down or to tie them together, or um, the signatures and the staging comes after the mode of operation. Thanks, Outback. So are you. There was a lot of baggage on both sides of the Evansdale cousins. That's another huge rabbit hole. Yes, I cannot wait to dive into that case. I mean, it's extremely similar. There's rumors of drug abuse and broken homes, and yeah, that one needs a ton more of attention. When this one's all said and done, that's the first case that I'm jumping on. Um, anything, even just to bring more awareness to it. Yeah, that's another case that bothers me. Hey, Vanessa says, I believe the I-65 killer was in Kentucky, Indiana, and Iowa. Can be a theory for sure. What are the states on a double homicide, let alone of children? Yeah, it's insane. Two children. Could be completely different circumstances. You have these other children. They're a lot younger. Um, both related. So it's most likely, a friend of the family or a family member that did something like that. But you never know. It could be something completely random. But the more we know about the Delphi case, the more those two kind of separate, in my opinion. But you never know. Hey, Frank. Frank Meister's in the house. Kremlis Gutierrez says the Kleins are not involved. Besides being into child pedophilia, law enforcement knows their whereabouts for that day, especially after 5 years. Still nothing. They always say it's not related to Delphi. Well, they don't say it's not related. They say it's absolutely related. They just say that Keegan Klein is not under arrest for the crime. He's definitely connected. Brad says Sleuth is a reasonable voice, but when you open one of these channels, the other voices with not nearly as much reason. Yeah. Got to take the good with the bad, I guess. You got to toughen up my skin. But it comes back to that thing, personal responsibility. It takes personal responsibility to make this world better. It starts with you. When you make that personal choice to go harass somebody or to be angry or to be vengeful, like you got people out there who are searching my information. Like, why? Like, what did I ever do to you? Or you got people doxing people or bullying, stuff like that. And whenever you see these doxers and these bullies and these people, they always come with the mask of righteousness. Oh, I'm protecting women's rights, or I'm standing up for the voiceless crimes against women and children. But yet, what they don't realize is, like, even with Anthony Greeno, like, yeah, if you have a problem with him, go face him face to face. But when you dox him and you do all this stuff, you got to remember he has daughters. He has aunts. He has female cousins. He has all these women in his family. He doesn't care. When he goes and gets a job, they know his felonies. He got hired with a background check. They know what he has done. But when you go and dox him, regardless of how bad of a person you think he is and how bad of a person he may be, if you, while trying to hurt him, you're really hurting all the innocent women and people that are surrounding him. So you're really just as bad. So these people that go out and they think they're doing God's work, they're really just as evil as what they claim to fight. And it's really disgusting. 50 plus killings, but he's only been found guilty for one. Wow. That's a crazy story. Yep, Jerome Weiss. That was an interesting story. I think True Crime Jesus did a video on that. There's some information in regards to a black truck and being seen leaving that area right at that time. So yeah, that's very interesting. What's up, Deb? See, that's extremely disgusting. Yeah, Rick needs to be careful because he comes out and he pokes all these people, you know, like, oh, I'm using my real name and I'm using this and this. It's not about you, Rick. We know you're tough. I can tell that you're a tough guy, man. But what about the people in your family that aren't so tough? You know, you got to worry about them. And that's a prime example there. And anybody that does stuff like that, you know, I'm not going to make like strange threats, act like a keyboard warrior, but I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to come publicly and talk about it. I'm just telling you, it's not going to be good for you. Because I won't implicate myself in a courtroom when I'm done doing what I need to do. So don't go there. More keyboard warrior tough talk from the sleuth. It's the last time I'll mention it. Well, let's see what Lil Pookie says first. Ooh, you got that right. I'm being followed around by a few that drank the haterade. Real nice people. Yeah, what the hell is it? Like, why would you be mad at somebody that's on YouTube? Like, literally, you're the one clicking on the channel. Stop clicking the channel. Now, the people that are angry and full of hate and still click on the channel, that's because you want to go and you want to be a bad person. So you're not a good person at that point. You made the choice. Big up to Europeans. 6:30, damn. That's crazy. I'd be eating dinner right about now, getting ready to watch a movie. All right, guys, let's finish it up. Go ahead and send me a couple more questions, or if you want to call in real quick, let me know. Probably hang out just for a minute or two. Like I said, I'm going live again later tonight. So if you have anything to follow up on this, I want to kind of lead into this, both the transcripts and kind of when Keegan talks about when he met Libby early February, that sleepover the week prior. I want to go a little bit more into how Abby really only showed up Sunday to hang out and was backup for Libby, you know, that day at the bridge. Then I want to talk about the ski mask incident that happened a little over a week after. Now, one thing everybody needs to remember is it's the same friend. The same friend that was with Libby when she met Anthony Schatz is the same friend a week after the murders that was apparently visited by somebody in a ski mask. Now, we don't know what's going on. All I can base everything off is what I'm reading in these transcripts. That's what it says. That's not my opinion. That's not coming from Sleuth. It's coming from the transcripts. And I'll present those pages. I have the page numbers. Page 11 talks about the iPhone in the Kick Chat 92. Page 12 talks about when they moved to Vegas. You know, so I want to kind of let you guys know what pages to go to and kind of help you go through all that stuff. Thanks, Public Art Credit. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to be much more busy here on YouTube. I took a lot of time off this month and next month. I always have all this vacation time and I just don't use it. and it just builds up and builds up. So I'm going to take a bunch of days off here and spend some more time talking about this case with you guys. Thanks, Willow. Yeah, we'll do it again later tonight, hopefully. Yeah, I never got that. It's like he thinks he's being smart with the interviewers. But now that I've read the transcripts, the new ones, about 3 or 4 times in its entirety, not to mention how many times I've kind of perused it, he he owned those investigators. He owned them in that interview. He kicked their ass. Yeah, he says he blocked them. Yep, contacted the morning of the 13th. That's what it says. And we'll talk about that as well. Oh, we got a new member. Welcome to the crew, Cindy. Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know why people would attack anybody. Like, I don't go after anybody. I mean, when have you seen me go on someone's channel and be like, oh, F you, you're wrong. Like, this is what happened. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't do that stuff. I just don't understand. I guess it goes with the territory. All right, guys. I think that's it. We got an hour and a half in, and I'll see you guys a little bit later tonight. It's going to be a little bit late, so it's going to be one for the Insomnia crew. We're going to go over the stuff we talked about this morning, and then some, and then whatever you guys want to chat about. Oh, it's official. Kremlise says, instead of arguing, why don't you invite some of these people for a discourse and be amicable? I try, and I do, and I have. The people that don't want to communicate, some of these relationships are not recoverable. They're gone. You know, people just weren't who they said they were, and really were just trash. You know, like a salesman. You know, a salesman, they come with smiles. You know, be leery of anybody coming with a smile, because there's been people who have been emailing me with all this support. You know, boom, boom. It's like, you know, all these kind words, and then the second you don't respond, or the second you don't interact with them, you know, boom, here comes out this dark side. So, I mean, you just got to be careful. Social media is a real hard place to make like a real friend. I have made some though, but you have to be careful. A lot of snakes. Oh, we got a super sticker. Thanks, Maureen. Always very supportive. I love catching you inside these chats with thought-provoking comments. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's like high school. It's really strange. But I was chill in high school too. You know, I'm basically like the 2000 version of hippies. Well, anyway, you guys, I really appreciate it. I will talk to you soon. Take care.
sleuth.